In our world lead, the horrors of authoritarianism on full display. The Iranian regime hanged a 23-year-old protester at dawn Thursday from a construction crane in the city of Mashhad. Sadly, this is not the first this year. There was another hanging at a prison last Thursday near Tehran. The goal, obviously, is to sow fear among the Iranian people for speaking out and protesting and demanding basic human rights. But the unintended result is demonstrators are actually making their voices even louder. Since protests erupted in September, Iran's government has killed hundreds of innocent Iranians. We turn now again to Nazanin Boniadi, an Iranian-born actress and now activist. Welcome back. What's your response to this latest crackdown, Naz?
Thanks, Jake, for having me. The international community or human rights community, and of course, people inside Iran are outraged. Sadly, this is not a surprise. It's how the Iranian regime operates. All it has, the only tool it has, is repression. And but people inside Iran are saying, please stop calling these executions. They're state-sanctioned murders, because the word execution, as abhorrent as it is, implies some kind of due process. And of course, the people in Iran don't have due process. These are sham trials in kangaroo courts. These trials are lasting as little as a few minutes, where sometimes the prosecutor also serves as the judge. So you can imagine these people they're not receiving any kind of justice. And Amnesty International has recently issued an urgent action. There are 26 protesters who are at great danger of being executed. 11 have received death sentences. And obviously, with the vast majority of the members of the Iranian parliament voting to kill protesters, that doesn't bode well. And finally, I just want to say, Jake, that this latest protester, Majid Reza Rahnavard, there's a video right before he was hung in Mashhad, where he's surrounded by two masked guards, and he's being interviewed by a journalist from Iran's state TV, asked, what is in your will? What's your dying wish? And he's blindfolded, and he says, my dying wish is for people not to read the Quran or pray for me at my grave, at my funeral, but to play happy music and to celebrate. And that, I think, is very telling, because the Iranian people, Iranian youth, are seeking in death what they're being denied in life.
The regime of Iran was kicked off the United Nations Council on Women this week, which has never happened before. Obviously, that's not going to stop the regime from continuing to murder its people in the street, but do you think it will have any effect?
I think it serves as a serious rebuke of a regime that doesn't offer any kind of normalcy or freedom to its own people. I don't see why the Islamic Republic should sit at any normal table, any diplomatic table with anyone, or be included any kind of normal way internationally, when it doesn't offer the same to its own people. So it's a serious rebuke. It embarrasses the regime. It gives credibility back to the United Nations and to and integrity back to the Commission on the Status of Women, because it was a farce that Iran was ever voted onto that body. And moreover, I think it gives a little bit of hope to the people inside Iran that the international community is paying attention to their plight and is trying to punish the Iranian regime in some kind of way. But more needs to be done. This is a great first step, but there are more serious actions that need to be taken. We need to exercise universal jurisdiction, much like Amnesty's Deputy Director of Middle East and North Africa said, that these perpetrators of human rights abuses need to be held accountable. There need to be immediate investigations and arrest warrants issued to stop these crimes against humanity from happening.
Do you think all of the countries, any country that currently has a diplomatic presence, an embassy or whatever in Iran, should call those people back, could call their ambassadors back so as to further isolate the Iranian regime? Is that a good next step?
That's a really great question, Jake, because that's exactly what the people, the dissidents inside Iran I'm speaking to, are calling for. And keep in mind, going back to the CSW, the Commission on Status of Women, those calls were not, yes, the resolution was drafted by the US, but that's because the US heeded the calls of women's rights defenders inside Iran. So all I care about is listening to what the calls are inside Iran among civil society. And yes, civil society is saying, recall your diplomats, close your embassy, expel Iranian diplomats from your countries, because that's the only language this regime understands. So yes, I back them up 100% if that's what they're calling for. There's other things that we can do. We need to expel, we need to sanction the supreme leader. We haven't done that yet. We need more Magnitsky sanctions, but we also need to sanction and really, I don't understand why the kids of regime officials are still living comfortably and freely in democratic countries, and then dissidents like Roya Pirahi, or the daughter of a woman who has been shot 167 times in the back by this regime, can't find political refuge in the West. So we need these laws to change and support civil society in Iran and not the regime.
All right, Nazanin Boniadi, always good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to continue covering the story, of course.